Good evening. I'm back after 13 days. Had a few microphone problems. The old microphone proved to be defective, so I got this new microphone. You can see it, and it's working nicely, and hopefully we don't have any more issues. So today's part four will focus from January 1st, 1969 to June 30th, 1969. And the part is called Helter Skelter. It's coming down fast. Okay, it's coming down fast. Um, so, put my notes in the right place. And I like this one. So, basically, at this point, January '69, they're not back at Spawn Ranch quite yet. They still have a rental on Gresham Street. I think they have it till March of '69. They actually stay eventually till May. The story is that Manson actually had a separate group of girls there. He had 8 girls there that weren't the family, and he was having fun there. What a life this guy had! But eventually, I got evicted from there. But they had that place. But so on November 22nd, 1969, the Beatles released a album called the Beatles, self-titled album, just called the Beatles. But it came better. It came to be better known as the White Album for its all-white cover, and Manson became obsessed with this album, and even Manson, pro Manson, would have to admit he did. Although they didn't believe the prosecutors' thing that he killed because of this album, basically. But he became obsessed. He thought these were direct messages that the Beatles were sending him, that there was an impending race war, and he had to take action to do something about it. So, um, and he kind of linked it. Manson was very well versed in the Bible, and he kind of linked it to the Book of Revelations. Okay, um, and so he thought that the race wars prophesized as the black Muslims in 1966 had said there would be a race war, and now Manson, and just to give you, an aside, there was a lot of racial tension. There was the Martin Luther King assassination on April 4th, 1968, and it was not, this race riots breaking out since '65, and it was not a good time. Race relations in the United States. So it was a very volatile time, a time of upheaval. The war, Vietnam War, very unpopular war. Um, so the album, so he played it on November 22nd, 19. The Beatles released on November 22nd, 1969. Little story aside to show Manson's racism. One time at I guess like Gresham Street or the Ranch, someone put on Jimi Hendrix. It was pretty rock, definitely rock music. It wasn't any other type of music. Manson got mad and told him to turn it off just because Hendrix is black. So this is this is what we're dealing with here. Not good. Um, so here's some of the most important songs that Manson thought to a direct message. One of the first songs that he listened to, and that he really thought that this was one of the messages the Beatles are sending to him, is piggies. Can you see the bigger piggies in the store white shirts? And by the piggies, he meant the upper crust, the highfalutin people, the people with the money. Um, and one of the lines in George Harrison, the writer's song, it says, "What they need's a damn good whacking." So we'll see how the song "Piggies" comes back in part 6 to very important relation with that song. Blackbird. He thought that song was the Beatles gave a message that the black people would rise up. Blackbird fly, you were only waiting for this moment to arise. And that was one of the lines that he thought that the Beatles were sending a message that the blacks would rise up at this point. Revolution 1 and 9. Now, Beatles had released a single called Revolution, and on the album itself, on the White Album, they had a song called Revolution Number One, which was the same song as Revolution, but it was a little slower paced. And Revolution Number Nine was a weird song. It was like a sound collage, and a bunch of sounds that just put together. And the Revolution's pretty self-explanatory. um, so Manson preached that to his family that they'd go out to the desert. There'd be a race war of great proportions, and the blacks would win, but the family would be okay because they would go out to the desert and they'd find a bottomless pit, and whatever that is, you got to be a bottom. Maybe it goes to China. I don't know. So yeah, maybe eventually the pit goes to China, but he finds So there is actually a Hopi Indian legend, and we'll see them come back again. The Hopi Indians, that there was a pit. There was actually a pit. Manson also preached that every month there would be a new tree of fruits, a different fruit. So one month there'd be pineapples, one month there would be apples, and whatever. But that's kind of tough considering that if it's down on the ground, trees don't go over the ground because and bear fruit because fruit are for the animals to eat the fruit to pass the seeds to grow more trees. Okay, so yeah, uh, so also there's no sunlight to cause the photosynthesis to make the reaction to um, create the fruit. So that's a problem. So he said they'd escape out to the desert, the war would go on, and the family would multiply to 144,000, as in the book of Revelation. And so they become 144,000. So war was over. They get back. The black man would win the war, according to Manson, but Charlie said the black man was inferior, and when the war was over, they need someone to turn to, and guess who shows up? Charlie. Yeah, that's the guy who's going to run the world. So Charlie's going to show up, and he's going to, run the world now, and he's in charge of everything. It's 144,000. There are other 3 or 4 billion people in the world, all whites eliminated. That's the world he's going to be running. So, as crazy as it sounds, um, now, very important person is starting to. I mean, Manson had contact with him before, but at this point, Manson started to see Dennis Wilson's not going to be his ticket to rock immortality. So he's focusing more on Terry Melcher, and on January 5th, 1969, Terry Melcher and his girlfriend, Candace Bergen, move out of the 10,050 Cello Drive residence. There were rumors that someone was creepy crawling them, which we'll get back to. Or someone has been breaking in, and he didn't feel safe. And of course, we know the cause of these problems. All right, okay, so a month goes by, and finally, a new couple arrives. They lease it for $1,200 a month. It sounds like cheap, rent to receive. But you got to remember, this is 1969 money, and today it'd probably be like 11,000 a month, 12, not 12, but 11,000. And the new couple to lease they sign the lease on February  12th, and they move in February 15th. Is Sharon Tate and her director husband, Roman Poyanski. Okay. Um, Now, Charlie. thinking he wants to get back to Spahn Ranch. So at this time, they're still at the Gresham Street rental. And again, he's going to eventually. So what happens at this point? He tells Squeaky, "Hey, Squeaky, move in. Sweet talk George. Get him back. Get him back. I want to get back into Spahn Ranch." And finally, he does. Finally, Spahn relents, lets him move back in. Um, so Manson at this point considered Spahn Ranch a temporary place until they could make their permanent move to a Spahn Ranch. Now, so Charlie, ever the businessman, realized it's going to take a lot of money um, for supplies, materials, whatever. And we'll see what kind of materials they're going to need to get back to a Spahn Ranch and to a Barker Ranch from Spahn. Um, Now, at this point, Charlie's getting a little more paranoid. Uh, so he's ordering everyone in the family to carry a knife with them at all times. Um, so, things are escalating in violence. Also, an interesting thing happens. We'll see kind of creepy. Randy Starr, whose name I'm going to mention also later on in this podcast, gives Charlie, again, when Charlie's principles is what's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. All right, this is his principle, and he's Randy Starr, ranch hand, gave him a 22 caliber bunt line revolver. It's one with a long barrel. Um, so he gave it to him, and that gun, Randy Starr, interestingly enough, got from Ronald Reagan. So Ronald Reagan, that Ronald Reagan. So interestingly enough, um, um, so Charlie is upping the ante with Helter Skelter. He says it's calling the war Helter Skelter, and he says it's coming up, it's coming up, it's coming up quick, it's coming down fast. So he's really, tense, and he's, manic, and um, now a guy who's early on just started with the family about a year ago, but left trying to make it on his own, was unsuccessful. Charles Tex Watson uh, asked Charlie to come back. So Charlie's not sure. He's upset with Watson because he deserted the family. But at this point, Charlie thinks Tex is an excellent mechanic, and he could really use him around the ranch. So he decides to let Tex Watson in because of his auto mechanic skills. Okay, so Manson has a lot of, needs money, right? So, and supplies. Also, he wants to create in the desert. He wants to create dune buggies to go around the desert, probably to escape the law enforcement. Um, so one of his first cockeyed plans was to open up a club on Spahn Ranch, and the club was called Helter Skelter, and joints were given out, and they charged a cover, and joints were given out, and they had popcorn and peanuts, and they had live music, and the family had some good sound systems. So that didn't last because the police closed the place down, and they fined George Spahn $1,500 operating a cabaret or a music show without a license. Okay, so now motorcycle gang Straight Satan starts to come around because they find Manson to be a good supplier of drugs. Um, so now, um, one of the treasurer of the Straight Sakers, a guy named called Danny DiCarlo. The women called him Donkey Dan because he was well endowed in the pants. Okay, and so they like coming around for the women, and Manson would make money off the drug deals, and he needed all the money he could get. Um, one thing that Charlie again didn't like about the bikers, they started to bring hard drugs out to the branch, like speed, and so Charlie starts to also develop an enemy, Shorty Shea. He's a ranch hand. Not that short, but I guess that's his name. He wasn't that tall. He was like 6 feet tall, but yeah, decent. So they he's trying to get the family off the ranch. So Manson's getting pretty pissed off about that. Um, and one of the things the bikers did when they used to come to the ranch is they talk and they used to say the N word a lot. And they were racist. And they said all these terrible things about black people. And believe it or not, some of the members, the women of the family, were offended by this. So they were complaining to Charlie, and but Manson's making a lot of money off the selling of drugs, and Manson told the family we're you have to pretend to be racist, um, just to keep the bikers happy. Just to keep the bike. You're just pretending. Yeah. Okay. Again, the harder drugs the bikers thought to bring concern Charlie, like speed. So Charlie didn't like that. That wasn't a good thing. Um, Now, Greg Jacobson starts, hanging around with Manson more. As you remember, he's a record producer. And so one day, he, Greg doesn't really think Charlie is that talented in terms of, I mean, there's a lot less talented people that got record deals. Believe me, I have a lot of records. Charlie wasn't that horrible. And so Greg thought he wasn't talented enough for a record deal, but he was good enough to do a documentary on and a film about the commune, the peace and love, and all that hippie mumbo jumbo. Charlie didn't like it. He wanted the the family to be shown as a bunch of marauders, uh, coming into town, ransacking a village. That was his take on the family. um, okay, the gun incident. Yeah, one day, they're walking, outside Spawn Ranch on the Santa Susana Pass Road, and Charlie said to Greg, he says, "Look over there. What's that?" He goes, "Oh, they're building a housing complex." He goes, "No, they're building a jail or something like that." And so Jacob says, "So what?" And Manson got mad that he wasn't appropriately disgusted. He took out a gun. He said, "What if I shot you right now?" And said, "I'd be dead." And, so Jacobson then got mad and said, "Stop with the bullshit, Charlie." So Charlie put away the gun. You can see how, Charlie would do this. This physical intimidation. I guess he was so short, and so that was one of his things. He would intimidate people because of that. To show people, that he could intimidate them. He had some kind of power over them. Um, okay, now another thing that started, and Manson had this idea that the he had to get the family ready to break into houses. Okay, and to break into houses, he started them going on creepy crawls. Now, what is a creepy crawl? Creepy crawl is when a few of the Manson family members, maybe six, maybe four girls and two guys, dressed in all black. They go to a house and they break in. Didn't have any alarms back then. And they break into a house, and what they do is they do something minor, like rearrange the furniture. Nothing. Moving furniture, other items from one place to the other. Um, One famous creepy, they leave and they don't take any money or anything. And the person wakes up in the morning and they say, "Oh, it puts fear into the person. Someone came to their house." So one famous creepy crawl victim was John Phillips and Michelle Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas. They were creepy cruel. Okay, so one of the first times, finally Manson convinces Greg Jacobson, I guess, convinces Terry Melcher to come to the ranch and take a watch of him. And so Terry Melcher comes by, and he's, it doesn't come by. I'm sorry, at this point he didn't come by. And Manson is a no show. Manson's upset. A no show at the house. Um, didn't show up. And Manson's ready. Manson's wants blood and more blood. So at this point, all right. So Sharon Tate's see, it's before she'd be about 4.5 to 5 months pregnant. April 1969. Wojtek Frykowski and Abigail Folger uh, move in to be with Sharon Tate, and the reason for this is Roman Polanski, the husband, wanted someone around to watch her. He didn't want her alone in that big house. So that was April 1st, 1969. If you're keeping score at home, okay. Now, who are Abigail Folger and Wojtek Frykowski? Well, Abigail Folger was the child of the in the Folgers Folgers family fortune, Folgers family fortune, and she was quite well off. The 25-year-old, I remember something like she used to get an allowance of 230,000 a year. Today's money, that's probably about 1.9 million dollars. So, and then she had a ne'er to do, I think they call boyfriend, who said he wanted to be a screenwriter, but he's a lazy bum, drug taking bum. And his name was Wojtek Frykowski, good friend of Roman from Poland. And so she, since they were good friends, they had to move in with Tate. But as we'll later see, that Frykowski was a drug dealer and he's lazy and shiftless, but he deserved to be murdered. Okay. All right. So finally, on May 18th, 1969, Melcher comes to see the family, see Charlie play at the ranch, and first thing that happens was, so they're all setting up, and Charlie's there, and before everything's set up, Charlie's nervous. All of a sudden, this pickup truck drives onto the property, and out pops a guy, Randy Starr again. Randy Starr, the same guy that gave the buntline revolver to Manson, and he's taking out. He has like a holster. He's drunk, and he's waving around these revolvers, and Manson goes up to him and starts beating him. Didn't sit well with Mr. Melcher. You gotta remember, Melcher is Doris Day's son. Didn't see like these type of things happen. If you live in the urban jungle, but he was squared away and protected from some of the brutal moments of life. So he never saw anything like this. Um, so he really, the fight really bothered him. Um, so so Belcher left, and he said to him, "I'll come back." And he said that the people looked hungry, Melcher, so he gave $50 to Manson to get them fed, get some food. Back then it's probably 400, so you could get some nice chow with that. So they decided to come back, Melcher, but this time he brought the blue-eyed Korean. Okay, see, he's Korean. His name is Mike Desi. He was a half. Mother was Korean. I mentioned later years we call him the blue-eyed Korean. So that was Mike Desi, and so interesting enough. So Mike Desi had a mobile recording thing, so they could record Manson. One of the problems Melcher had was when he tried to record Manson in the studio, it was very difficult. It wasn't his environment. So he thought, well, maybe according to the field, I could get some interesting music out of him. So he brought the mobile recording unit and actually DC had used it to record some music by Hopi Indians. See, they come up again too. They were the people gave the myth of the bottomless pit, and then the people with the hole, right? um, so DC makes a bad decision. So he brings the truck, and Melcher's there, and Melcher, for some reason, 2 hours in, decides, oh, I gotta go, I gotta make a meeting, but Mike will be here recording you. Okay, so so Manson's playing and everything, and they give Mike some LSD, and it's a bad move. And what happens is that Mike starts freaking out. Mike DC, the blue-eyed Korean, and what he does is he goes to one of the farmhouses. He picks up a hatchet and a pitchfork, and he starts to threaten Manson with it. So probably not a good idea. Manson didn't feel like, although he could have probably taken things into his own hands at this point, uh, has some of his flunkies take care of business. So Bruce Davis, Tex Watson, and Steve Groven take DC around the back and give him a beat him up pretty good. So, and not that it was funny, but and they rough him up, and so it's such a bad day for DC. I mean, here and you got to remember in the context, DC was no, he was a happening guy. He played on Elvis's comeback tour. He's a very good guitarist. And here he is getting beaten up on an old movie wrench with a bunch of dirty hippies. He was a session man. He played on Monkeys albums, and he was traumatized. And so by the LSD trip, getting the beating, and so he went through extensive psychotherapy, Jungian analysis, psychotherapy for years, and finally, the thing that finally got him over. See, going to the Spawn Ranch might be a problem. Um, uh, Finally, he became a born again Christian, and that's what finally he said saved his mental health. So I came at a pretty good time today. Let's see, 27 minutes. Okay, so about 28 minutes. I'll be keeping it on a half-hour episode. I have to put ads in. All right, well, thank you. Today's September 27th, 2025. Manson, Helter Skelter Part, Deep Dive Down the Manson Hole Part 4. My Helter Skelter, it's coming down fast. So the next episode, part 5, will cover July 1st, 1969 to August 7th, 1969. Next episode is going to be a big one because there's a lot of stuff that has happened. So thank you very much, and you have a great day. This is the King of All Mediums signing out. Thank you.